Hello everyone, welcome to today's show. My name is Spencer Walls. Thank you so much for joining us here today on this Wednesday, January 16th. It's time for a briefing on everything going on today. We got a great show. We got Brexit defeat, really devastating Brexit defeat, and shutdown updates, and a lot more. So we're going to get right into it. We got a great show for you today. So, all right, we start, obviously, I'm going to start today with a news flash. As Kenya's president says 14 people were killed in Tuesday's attack on a hotel complex, declaring the attack over. Per the Associated Press, Assailants identified as Shabab militants attacked a Nairobi luxury hotel and office complex on Tuesday, spreading death and panic as the police in Kenya's capital evacuated civilians and sealed off the area. So, that's a very, very, very unfortunate situation. President Trump and Democrats may be at a standoff over reopening parts of the government, but business proceeded almost as usual on Capitol Hill, where the president's nominee for Attorney General William Barr faced senators during his confirmation hearing. So, the hearing resumes today at 9:30, and that's going to be another very interesting thing to watch if you have the time today. I know I do not, but yeah, we'll catch up on it for you tomorrow. But here's what happened yesterday. Of course, over the course of the 9 hours of testimony on Tuesday, it was a rough stretch. It's 9 hours, pretty big. Barr was repeatedly pressed on how he plans to handle a special prosecutor Bob Mueller's investigation of Russian interference in the 2016 election, per the reporting of the Washington Post. And he's said some pretty derogatory things towards the Mueller investigation before. That's why many people were kind of a little worried about what he was going to plan to do. So over the course of those 9 hours of testimony, he was pressed on things like that. You fielded some pretty tough questions from both allies and 2020 Democratic hopefuls taking their best shots. Barr emerged today largely unscathed and is likely to be confirmed regardless, because it takes 50 votes in the Republican-held Senate to approve him. But here's the thing, the back and forth set the stage for what could be epic showdowns over the Mueller probe, and the AG is likely to supervise it, which could lead some uncharted legal territory. So yeah, he is here appointing the guy who is going to sit through... He's going to be appointing the guy who's going to be supervising his own investigations. There's a little bit of an ethical problem there, just to say the least. So yeah, he apparently, here's what he's saying here. He will not fire Mueller without cause. This is what he said in the testimony yesterday. Barr indicated in his opening statement that he would allow Mueller, whom he called, quote, a longtime friend, to finish his work throughout the 9-hour hearing. Barr lavished praise on Mueller, noting that under the regulations, he could fire the special counsel only for good cause, adding, frankly, it's unimaginable that Bob would do anything that gave rise to good cause. That would be to fire him. So, again, there's really no way to tell the full truth of what everything is going to do. But this is good stuff. But then you could very easily make the case that he is just saying this to get confirmed. He doesn't actually mean it, and he's just going to turn his back on everything else there once he gets confirmed. He did not commit to making public the entire report from the special counsel. Barr said any report from Mueller would be treated like internal Justice Department prosecution memos that are kept secret, the Post reports, straddling a fine line between transparency and confidentiality. The rules, I think, say the special counsel will prepare a summary report on any prosecutive or declination decisions, and that should be confidential and be treated as any other declination or prosecutive material within the department. Declination memos are written by the Justice Department officials when they decline to file charges against individuals, essentially ending an investigation. Republicans and Democrats urge Barr to release that full final report to the public, but the nominee would only commit to being transparent as the regulations allow. So I guess that does make sense. Here's a key thing. A poll released last month found that 3 in 4 American adults believe the entire Mueller report should be made public. 2/3 of Republicans agree with the statement. It's pretty high. While 9 in 10 Democrats agreed, according to the same poll from NPR's PBS NewsHour Marist. Barr backed away from his earlier claims regarding executive privilege. That was what gave a lot of people question in the first place. 30 years ago, the then Assistant Attorney General serving in President H.W. Bush's Office of Legal Counsel wrote a memo, which was Barr talking about here, arguing against the legal encroachments on presidential power, and that it was essential for the president to be able to fire anyone, per law and crimes Matt Natham. And, of course, there's the much-discussed memo Barr sent unsolicited to members of the Trump administration suggesting Mueller was badly overreaching by pursuing an obstruction of justice argument when it comes to Trump's firing of ex-FBI Director Comey. But on Monday, Barr admitted it would be a crime if Trump offered pardon as a pro quo to alter testimony, and that would definitely constitute obstruction of justice, and told Senator Chris Coons of Delaware that he would resign if Trump tried to fire a prosecutor in order to end an investigation, per the Post's Matt Zapolsky, Grun Demerjen, Devlin Barrett, and Seungwon Kim, supporting in there from them as they were at the hearing. Barr called Russia a pretty potent rival, which is interesting. But given this shouldn't really not that big of a revelatory statement. But I mean, there is a case to again made to be made for lowering tensions with Russia. But it's an interesting situation that he did make that statement. But given the reports that the FBI opened a counterintelligence investigation into Trump himself following Comey's ouster, the president's own attitudes towards the Kremlin, and the president's own attitudes towards the Kremlin, is pretty definitely worth noting. Ben Sass asked the question, and Barr said he believed China to be the primary rival of the United States. I'm concerned about the fixation on Russia and not obscure danger from China. That's what he said. Barr raised some concerns on criminal justice reform, saying Cory Booker kind of put him under the gun when he said Barr... he pressed Barr on his past record on criminal justice reform. Barr had been supportive of massive incarceration and other quote-unquote tough on crime policies. Barr praised former Attorney General Jeff Sessions' record of the Justice Department, including some of his work dismantling criminal justice reform efforts by then President Barack Obama's administration. In response, Barr told Booker that he's no doubt there are places there's still racism in the system, but I said overall, I think it's still I think it's still in the system, but overall, I thought as a system it's working. That's what Barr said to Booker. Booker still tweeted later that he's still worried that Barr doesn't understand the disproportionate impact of criminal justice systems on our vulnerable communities. All right, that is a little bit of an update from the Hill. We're now going to go take a broader scope. We're going to look at the scale of global power now. With just 10 weeks until Britain is slated to leave the European Union, a stunning Parliament vote yesterday once spurned Prime Minister Theresa May's withdrawal deal and sent the country hurtling into uncharted territory. The resounding rejection of May's deal, which was an insane amount, was worse than the worst estimates she expected to lose by when she put her Brexit deal up to the up to vote. Yeah, it was a result of conducting negotiation between her and European leaders. It was pretty much a compromise that no one really could get behind. I mean, good compromises give everyone enough to kind of win for or claim victory over, but this didn't really give anyone victory, anything to claim victory over, so pretty much everyone was very unhappy about it. She is right now facing a no-confidence vote, and it's going to be very, very rough. Here's the thing to know on the landslide. Again, it was pure humiliation for a British leader who has spent the last 2 years trying to sell her vision of Brexit to a skeptical public, and her failure raised serious questions about how and if Britain will leave the EU as promised on March 29th. It was really pretty crazy scene in the chamber there. As the votes were being announced, you could hear some people going, wow, because she failed that badly on getting enough support for the vote. Jesus. Yeah, hardcore Brexiteers cheered the result as increasing the chances of Britain leaving the European Union with no deal and no compromises, or with a much better deal than May or the EU leaders say is realistic. At the same time, those who want to see a second referendum on Brexit and who want to stay in the Union think May's loss gets them close to their goal. So got pretty much closer to everyone's goal except for Theresa May. So, yeah, everyone kind of wanted it except for Theresa. The political turmoil heightened fears among European leaders that Britain will crash out of the bloc in a chaotic no-deal departure of harsh economic and humanitarian consequences on both sides of the English Channel. And that's something that apparently everyone wants to avoid there, hopefully. But we know the no deal would be a drastically bad situation. Jeremy Corbyn, the opposition of the Labour Party leader, then introduced a motion of no confidence to be debated and voted upon on Wednesday. May has until Monday to return with Plan B. Her office has been tight-lipped about what alternatives she might offer at the moment. So biggest government defeat in history. What happens next? Theresa May loses it big over a Brexit deal. It's a shambles, the view from the country on Brexit now. Those are some of the headlines from the just kind of a mix of papers from here and across the pond. All right. Here is what's next. We have, now that this vote has failed, it's rejected, completely rejected. So now the government has 3 days, 3 parliamentary working days to set out a plan of action, which could be a general election, another referendum, a vote of no confidence, which is going to happen actually, no deal or renegotiate. So that's what they're going to try to do. We don't know. We know they're going to do a vote of confidence. We don't know about a general election, referendum, renegotiation, or no deal. So that's pretty much where we're at right now on Brexit at this point. So we head now to the White House. The shutdown standoff deepened with no real progress between the White House and lawmakers. Trump held a conference call with supporters from around the country, vowing we're not going back until we get what we have to get regarding the border wall. He continued to try to whip up frenzy over the border crisis, claiming the country would collapse if the wall isn't built. So it's a very strong. I hope anyone doesn't think the country is actually going to collapse, maybe even the most hard right-wing people, but I just don't think that the country's with him on this. I think he's going to have to realize that. But yeah, the president said that people are also very impressed with how well the government is working with the circumstances that we are under. He blamed the Democrats' open borders fringe people for holding the government hostage. Some Democrats, for their part, declined an unusual lunch invitation to a handful of rank-and-file House Democrats in an attempt to woo them and create a divide within the Democratic camp over the shutdown. But the lawmakers rebuffed the outrage as Democratic leaders voiced concerns the meeting would prove little more than a photo opportunity, bolstering Trump. It's probably they probably got the right idea on that one. So yeah, the economic consequences are also piling up. The partial government shutdown is inflicting far greater damage on the U.S. economy than previously estimated. White House acknowledged on Tuesday as President Trump's economists doubled projections of how much the economic growth is being lost each week. The standoff with the Democrats continues, and here's where the donors come in. They say the Democrats aren't going to budge on the wall. Trump, you got to give up. You got to give up. Like, now is not the time for any of this. So the revised estimates from the Council of Economic Advisors show that the shutdown now, its fourth week, is beginning to have real economic consequences. The analysis and other projections from outside the White House suggest that the shutdown has already weighed significantly on growth and could ultimately push the United States economy into a contraction, according to Jim Tankersley of the New York Times. In order to offset50,000 of the economic impact, Erica Wardner of the Washington Post also reports that the administration called back nearly 50,000 furloughed workers to work without pay to fulfill key government tasks, including disbursing tax refunds, overseeing flight safety, and inspecting the nation's food and drug supply. So yeah, they're going to be working again without pay here. It's a very, very rough situation. No one really wants to be in that kind of thing. Today, though, the White House was organizing a meeting with a different group of House Democrats, the Problem Solvers Caucus, per daily guidance. It's unclear who will attend the meeting. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting. This is probably probably the most moderate Democrats. Getting them to kind of flip on this would be very, very... It's probably the best shot they have on that front. So, yeah, separately, though, Trump is set to have lunch with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo today. Pompeo is set to meet with North Korea's top negotiator, Kim Yong-chol, on Friday in D.C. CNN's Kylie Atwood, Joshua Berlinger, and Will Ripley before he heads to the World Economic Forum in Davos next week. Trump canceled his trip there due to the shutdown, and then Pompeo will actually be going. So, all right. Here's the big news.
Speculation as to why you're here tonight, and I just want